Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and if you like Xbox and if you like Nintendo, well, you're probably going to be fairly happy about today's news. They do have a partnership together, and depending on how you look at this situation, this could potentially be very exciting. Now, we also have a high-profile Xbox PlayStation 5 game to talk about, so do stick around for that as well. But first, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with Fantasy Life I. This is Level 5's newest game, which is a sequel for their 3DS cult classic from 11 years ago, which that's kind of hard for me to believe. It's really been that long. Now, if you're unaware of what this game is, though, it's often described as a combination of Final Fantasy and Animal Crossing. It's a life sim with various different jobs, and there's some RPG mechanics to it, so if that's your thing, well, then the newest entry is actually available right now as we speak. Now, I say that because I feel like it's been a very quiet launch and that a lot of people just don't know about it. It only has one review so far, which seems a little bit odd, and I've also seen very little discussion about it online. But even with all that, it still appears to be a big hit over on Steam. It's already eclipsed a 34,000 concurrent player peak high, which is actually pretty impressive for a smaller game like this. It's also being received extremely well with a 92% positive rating. So if anything else, welcome back, Level 5. I mean, I feel like they've been sorely missed over here in the West, and I'm happy to see that they're being rewarded early on for their return, and hopefully its word of mouth propels them to continue that success onward. Now, speaking of being sorely missed, let's go talk about Rayman. I mean, here's an all-time beloved franchise that a lot of us have been begging for a return. I mean, come on, Ubisoft, what are you doing over there? I mean, besides sinking the company and damaging your brand, whatever the case may be, it's been 12 years since the last big 2D entry, Rayman Legends, and it's been 22 years since its last 3D outing, being Rayman 3. Well, by all indication, that will soon change because they are working on a brand new entry. Now, we first heard about this directly from Ubisoft last year. At the time, they were exploring some new ideas for the Rayman series, and well, it now sounds like they're proceeding to the next phase because we're now hearing about it yet again through a Ubisoft Milan job listing. They're currently looking for a senior game designer who will work on the Rayman brand, and they're also looking for a 3D gameplay animator to be involved in the production of what they describe as a prestigious AAA title for Rayman. So, yeah, they're not necessarily trying to keep this as some kind of hidden secret or anything like that. It's happening. And now the big question really just kind of becomes, is this going to be a new 3D entry? Is it going to be a part of their 2D series? Or instead, is this going to be a remake? Insider Gaming, in fact, last year claimed that they were exploring a remake. So technically, this could be a remake of the first game in the same vein as Origins and Legends, or they could even remake one of the 3D entries. So there's a lot of different outcomes that could possibly come from this, but either which way, it sounds like Rayman is finally set for his return, and I couldn't be any more happy about that, as I fully expect from other Rayman fans as well. Now, let's go and shift gears here, though, because not everything is necessarily peachy within the industry right now. One of this year's biggest conversations has been about game prices. Nintendo and Xbox have welcomed $80 games, and, as I've said various times, that's really just the first two dominoes to this discussion. They've now given the excuse that the rest of the industry wanted to raise their own AAA prices. So I think by this point, you might as well just go ahead and prepare for it. Don't be shocked when other AAA publishers, come out and raise the price of their games to $80 as well. And kind of sounds like Borderlands 4 could potentially be a part of that list. Now, this is yet to be fully confirmed, but old Randy Pitchford responded to somebody over on Twitter, and this is now making the rounds for all of the wrong reasons. In a response to concerns for Borderlands 4 at that potential $80 asking price, he said, A, not my call, B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor, and I found a way to make it happen. I mean, okay. I feel like he probably should have just simply stopped at A, not my call. I mean, that's really all he needed to say in this situation. But instead, he went on a side tangent here that you'll basically pay whatever they ask, because if not, I guess you're just not a real fan. That's what he's basically implying here, and that's just so tone deaf. The reality is that not everybody can afford these price hikes. Gaming has always come at a price. There's no doubt about that. But I'd say right now, especially, with just everything that's been happening in the world these past 4 to 5 years, things have gotten very expensive. I mean, some people are having a hard time affording groceries right now. So it's not about being a real fan or not. If anything, a comment like this should lead to less fans, because I think that's just a ridiculous, tone-deaf, backhanded thing to say that completely misses the point of why some gamers legitimately have issues with these price hikes. Yeah, I mean, if you weren't already sick of just how some of these AAA companies treat their customers, I mean, well, I guess there's this comment which tells you how they truly feel. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about something a little bit more exciting. Though, admittedly, this really just may depend on your own personal point of view. Anytime we talk about multi-platform Xbox games, I do understand that there's a mix of emotions and reactions, because on one side, there's excitement. There's more fans that can enjoy their games. And I think Xbox doesn't, get enough credit for some of their games and how good they actually can be at times. But then there's also that bitterness that Microsoft is instilling on really some of their most hardcore fans. Not everybody likes this new strategy of theirs, because there is that concern about their future in the console business. And I do think there's a very real question about if this is short-term gains in sacrifice of a more rewarding long-term future. I think that is a question that remains to be seen, and I don't think we'll fully know the extent of its impact until their next generation console. But until then, Xbox will be a major partner for Nintendo and the Switch 2. Now, this was actually confirmed last year in a Nintendo financial report when they revealed Microsoft as one of their third-party partners for the Switch 2. So this isn't necessarily completely new information, but so far, we still haven't seen what that partnership actually includes. Well, today, Tom Warren over on The Verge revealed that Xbox is currently working on a number of ports for the Switch 2, and he expects that we'll hear about those games soon. Now, E3 season is right around the corner, so there's a number of places that this could happen at. They could reveal some Nintendo games at the Summer Game Fest. They also have their own showcase just a few days after that. Nintendo could possibly have their own Summer Direct. They typically do. And then there's also Gamescom, which Nintendo has already confirmed that they will be there as well, and Xbox typically joins in on the Gamescom fun as well. So all this could happen anywhere between a few weeks or even a few months. But my bigger question really is, what are these ports? And I think we already have a few different ideas. The Age of Empire games, I think, makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about the mouse feature that the Switch 2 has. That could actually be a perfect combination, so that's one to pay attention to. There's also Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves. They seem to be some of the most likely because both of those have already released for the PlayStation 5, and I do think that both of these games would be a perfect fit for Nintendo just artistically, especially something like Sea of Thieves. I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of Nintendo fans that grew up with Rare, and Sea of Thieves is one of their most successful games ever made that's still ongoing. So Nintendo could be a way for Rare to inject even more life into Sea of Thieves like we saw last year on a PlayStation 5. It also just really fits in with Nintendo's history and artistically as well. Now, Hi-Fi Rush, I'd say that's a little bit more tricky just because technically Microsoft sold that IP and the studio over to Krafton, so I'm not fully sure if they still control the shots for the first game, but there were a lot of leaks previously that suggested that a Nintendo version was previously in development. Now, another 2 games that I'd kind of keep an eye on here are the Halo the Master Chief Collection. There's been a lot of rumors about a PlayStation 5 Nintendo port, and Xbox could be viewing that as a way to revitalize the Halo franchise. I mean, these are older games, and even if Halo 7 is exclusive to Xbox in the future, that's still possible. But this would be a great way for them to introduce Nintendo and Sony fans to their most iconic franchise. That's a great way for them to revitalize a franchise that may have, has shrank a little bit over time. Now, there's also Forza Horizon 5. I think this would be another game to kind of pay attention to. Again, it's already available on the PlayStation 5, and even though there will be questions about its technical capability, I think a Switch 2 version could be possible. It already runs fairly well on the Steam Deck as is, and the Switch 2 is actually more capable with its DLSS technology. There's also an endless amount of rare games that they could possibly bring over, though I expect that more so to happen through Switch Online like they've been doing already. But there are a few games like Killer Instinct as one such example that would, I think, make a lot of sense just given its history with Nintendo. They did release a big update for it. I believe that was back in late 2023. Correct me if I'm wrong. But either way, do expect some Xbox and Nintendo announcements in the nearest future. Let me hear some of your predictions, though, in the comments below. And speaking of Xbox ports, our final topic of the day is actually about an Xbox PlayStation 5 game. Now, this also comes from Tom Warren because he claimed that Hellblade 2 will make its way over to Sony's platform this summer. Now, personally, I think this makes a lot of sense just given the history that Ninja Theory has on PlayStation. They've made a couple of exclusives for them in the past, and in fact, Hellblade 1 originally was a PlayStation console exclusive. And I also don't believe that the sequel was necessarily as successful as Microsoft was hoping it would be. Now, I know it's always a little bit difficult to gauge success for Game Pass titles, but we know for a fact that it didn't chart very well on Steam Database, peaking at a 4,000 concurrent high. Even more so, and this is the thing that I noticed the most, is that after it released, it didn't really receive a lot of fanfare online. It was much more divisive than the first entry, so just with all of that combined, I feel like a PlayStation release makes sense in this situation to kind of get the most out of this game. Let me know what you all think about all this, though. Again, I completely understand that this new multi-platform Xbox strategy is divisive. Not everybody likes it, so let me hear your opinion about it in the comments below. Anyways, though, that's me for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.